Welcome viewers to the third annual TennCom tier list. Today, it's the 100 square inch rackets. We've got a bunch of new 100s that I have never ranked. I want to revisit a couple of the other rankings, but first off, let's remind ourselves of the rules for the tier list. On the TennCom tier list, we care both about playability and cool factor. Playability, I'm looking for something that's good all around, something that's unique in the market. So, if it's just a copy of a different racket, then I'm probably not giving it that high of a ranking. We're looking for something that, you go and you demo like 5 rackets. We're looking for rackets that stand out from the pack, either because they have no weaknesses or because they have unique strengths that aren't replicated elsewhere. And for cool factor, I don't care that much about paint shops, but I do really care about endorsements. And it's not to say that it really matters what pro uses what racket, but it also kind of does. Talk to your friends and ask them, like, why do you use that racket so often? They will say it's because of an endorsement. Like my friend uses a Speed MP. He plays nothing like Sinner. I don't think the Speed MP is a great choice for him, but he loves his Speed MP because he loves playing like Sinner. I use the Purell Rafa. Yes, I love the racket, but it really goes back to because the Aero Pro drive was used by Rafael Nadal, and I got completely brainwashed. So whether you like it or not, endorsements do matter a little bit. Now I want to reorganize my tier list because I've changed my mind on a few things. First up, Aero 100 is moving down to A from S. It's not that it's a bad racket. I think it's still a good racket. Every time I revisit it, it doesn't quite give me the magic. The lineage doesn't quite, the Aero lineage is so important, but it doesn't bolster it, and there's not enough cool players using the Aero 100. So that's getting bumped down. PD, same thing. Like, why is there nobody endorsing the pure drives anymore? Even on the WTA, I don't really see it that much. G Pro is now still going to be leading the S tier, though. Why? Zverev, Rublev, formerly Ash Barty. This is a pro stock mold that pros are actually using. It's an awesome racket. It's a unique racket. It plays super solid. It's amazing directional control. Some of the best directional control in any racket, let alone the 100 square inch segment. I think it is the best 100 square inch racket for directional control in the world. FX 500, I'm still going to leave that in A tier. Even though there is a very cool endorsement now, Jack Draper, the man who pukes, the man who toughs it out, tries his best even when he can't keep fluids in his body. Beyond that, the FX 500 is a phenomenal racket. Amazing power, probably best in class stability looking at these power 300-gram rackets. Super torsionally stable, really good response outside of the string, but outside of the sweet spot. Great forgiveness, surprising comfort, I think, from the Power Groove channel gimmick thing for such a high RA racket. Very nice. E-Zone 100 also going to stay in the A tier. I love the E-Zone 100. Every time I revisit the E-Zone 100 and pick it up again, I'm like, oh, this is a good racket. This is something I could play with. Casper Ruud, for me, not that cool of endorsement. I don't really like watching him play. He's so reasonable. When I watch Ruud, I just don't go, let me go out and play tennis, so therefore the endorsement doesn't do anything to beef up the racket. Leaving it in A. PSX, Pro Staff X, love this racket, but lack of endorsements, kind of lack of relevance too. Like, I don't even think we're gonna see this move on to a second generation of frame, even though I really like this racket, especially now with the RF01 Pro kind of like being that more easy to use Pro Staff. I feel like the relevance and importance of Pro Staff X is bumping it down to B. VCore 100, still love it, still think that's one of the best spin rackets that you can get today. Great comfort, it's a great option for so many players who are looking for both great comfort in a frame and great spin production. I know that's something that's really hot in like the men's 3.5 kind of realm. Moving on to the Clash. I can't believe I had this in S and then put it in B. Like, what was I even doing? I never see Clashes, V2 Clashes on court anymore. I like that the whole point is to help people play tennis because it's comfortable. But all these players are moving on to pickleball now. It's like, yeah, we hate on pickleball, but the Clash is not a racket I'd get ever caught dead using. It doesn't inspire me. There's no cool endorsements. I'm putting it in D. It's not quite an F racket. I don't think it's a complete failure of a frame. There is something coming up that I think is a failure of a frame, so hold on for that one. But the Clash, just that variable flex, don't love it. Complete lack of cool factor, potentially the least cool racket you can buy. The Bolt, I have half a mind to bring this from B to S. And I think it's kind of a meme, I'll admit, but there's nothing like the Bolt. If you try a Bolt and you hit it and you say, oh, this feels generic, you're completely lying. There is nothing like the Bolt. The technology is, you might say it's a gimmick in terms of, oh, it's not that practical, but it's real. Like, you can see the tech doing what they claim it to do, and it does have some immense trade-offs, but it's the most unique racket I've ever tried, and it deserves to be S simply for that. It's a racket that I refuse to sell. Probably I couldn't actually sell it, like, who's gonna buy a Bolt? But I don't want to ever sell it. It's a racket that I love sharing with my other tennis nerd friends, and it's hilarious. And so I'm moving it up to S. And the Shift 300 I called the worst racket of the year last year, so I don't know how I could possibly leave it in B. For me, it lost a lot of street cred when Sakari said she was going to switch to it and then dumped it after like one match. Like, man, this thing is unpredictable. I haven't tried the 315, so maybe that one would be better. I don't think... Is it a D racket or a C racket? I think the fact that it was so bad a pro tried to use it and couldn't. I don't think the Andy Roddick endorsement adds any cool factor. I think we all have seen right through what that was about. So I'm going to put that in C. I feel like D is too hard. It's an okay racket. It's not like the Clash I wouldn't get caught dead using. The Shift I could go, I guess I could use this for now. Gravity MP. This one is one that I feel like bumping down. This is a racket that every time I think about using it, I don't want to at all. It's like one of the worst rackets that I can remember playing with. Inspired zero confidence, hurt my wrist because I couldn't time the ball properly. Just not a fun frame. Putting that in D. I think that's D. Yeah, I think I would rather use the Shift than the Gravity MP. Pretty embarrassing. And now on to the new rackets for 2024. Some of these 100 square inches are brand new to me, rackets I've never tested and molds I've never even touched. And some of these are just incremental updates that we see year over year or year over 2 years, aka head rackets where are basically identical every time. And so this new segment is brought to you by Direct Tennis. Direct Tennis is my favorite tennis app for finding local at-home stringers near you. I've certainly been in situations where I want to get my racket strung and the only option is Sport Check, which is like the Canadian version of Dick's Sporting Goods. You pick up your racket, you've paid way too much for a horrible job. Oftentimes the guy doesn't even know how to tie knots, doesn't even know how to straighten strings. With Direct Tennis, you're way more likely to run into a stringer who's passionate about their craft and solo entrepreneur who really takes a lot of ownership in their business, and their mission is to bring you the best tennis string job that really is even feasible for the human brain. So if you want to support TennCom, thank Direct Tennis using the links in the description below. And now on to the new 100 square inch rackets for 2024. So that is where we are at with our reorganization of the tier list. Very crowded A. I think there are truly a lot of very solid A tier 100 square inch rackets. So next up, we're going to look at the Percept 100 and 100D. I put them together because I don't think they're actually that different, but I do really, really like the Percepts. Are they an A tier frame? Are they a B? They're definitely at least A. The Onyx is killing it, not a single below A. The Crew endorsement, I think, adds significant cool factor. I think the D factor, like, 100D. That sounds cool. I love the paint job. I know Fritz isn't endorsing it, Hubie's not endorsing it, but I love both of those guys. Both of those guys kind of do inspire me to get out and play. So I think like the endorsements around the 100D give it enough to boost it from A to S. Next up, the Speed MP. Speed MP, Yannick Sinner, Carrot Juice, Carrot Steroid Man, whatever you want to say about that. I don't really care. I do not like this racket that much. I think it's a great racket for winning matches. I think it plays well, but I don't think it's enjoyable to play with, if that makes any sense. I think there's a strong difference between you hit the racket and the ball that you produce with that racket is very high quality ball, and that's different from enjoying the experience of hitting with a racket. The Speed MP, especially in this new version with the bump and swing weight that they did for Auxetic 2.0, means that this is a very good racket to play with, but it's not a fun racket to play with. And so because of that, I think it is limited to A. It's not, I think the endorsement is what pushes the it's the endorsement and the quality of ball that you can produce pushes it to A, but for the actual playability and fun factor that you have on court with the Speed MP, it's like a B tier frame. The Speed Pro, oh god, oh no, I've made an error. There we go. Okay, so I tried the new Speed Pro, and I do think it deserves to be a separate racket from the Speed MP, unlike the Percept 100 and 100D, because it's so much heavier feeling, not only in terms of 10 grams of static weight, but the swing weight that I tried was like towards 340 on the Speed Pro, which is significant. And because, you know, with the 100D, you're only looking at the addition of 2 mains, the same amount of crosses, 19 crosses on 100 and 100D. Speed Pro, you get a 20th cross as well. So that's just another difference. I do think that's notable enough. I don't know about the Speed Pro, to be honest. Like, I feel like if you're a control player who wants this directional control of a type pattern, why not go to Gravity Pro? But if you need that extra power, why not go to like the Boom Pro, where, yeah, you got the 98, but you got a little bit more power from the stiffness. I think having all this flex that these speeds have is not the best for high-level competition, and that's where I see the Speed Pro most would be for like super, like an open level, really high level competition player, because they play really heavy, that dense pattern. They're great for developing high racket head speed. And I just don't really see the Speed Pro as being the best choice for that kind of player. I don't even count Djokovic as endorsing this thing. Not that that would add cool factor to me, because I don't think Djokovic is necessarily the coolest guy. Although I do like some things that he does. Like, I love when he just sticks to his guns. Anyway, so that's going to be one step down from the Speed MP, just for the lack of usability. And it just doesn't feel like it's the cream of the crop in terms of what players should and shouldn't be using that. Okay, 400 Tour. No endorsements really on the CX line, no notable endorsements. All the cool endorsements are on the FX, really, like with Poprin and Draper. We saw them both this summer. Nothing super cool with the CX. I like the 200 a lot more than the 400 Tour. I felt like the 400 Tour is caught between two worlds. I have a hard time recommending this racket to a lot of players just because I think there's better rackets out there. And it's less unique than the Shift 300, so that means it's a D-tier racket. I don't want it to be, but it is. Blade 100. Overall, deeply mediocre, no cool endorsements, just a fine racket, not one that I really want to play again, nor is it one that I have any strong feelings about, so C is average. Fiorero Rafa is an S tier. It's my favorite racket in the world right now, endorsed by the coolest player to ever live, the best player of all time. But also, like, to be more real, it's a re-release of the Aero Pro Drive original. It feels so close to those old Aero Pro Drives. That's been something I've personally wanted for so long. When do you ever see manufacturers re-releasing frames into like a mainstream audience? We see it a little bit with Wilson and Head occasionally, but it's not the same. This is something we wanted, this is something that we asked for, this is something they gave us, although they gave us a hideous paint job and didn't really market it well. So that's unfortunate. Anyway, that's where it goes. Prestige MPL. Way too soft again, very similar experience to the Gravity MP. I think the feel is a little bit better. I'd probably rather use the Prestige MPL as opposed to the Gravity MP, but again, I do struggle to find a good audience for this frame. It's so soft, it's so bendy, and the forgiveness is pretty strong. I'm gonna put it just a notch above the Gravity. I do really think the paint job is outstandingly sick. TFX1, I don't know if I'm going to make a review on this racket. I want to. Technofiber was amazing. They sent me the 98 and the 100. The 98 was fine. This 100 is terrible. I'm trying to figure out what to do with it, trying to find strings that will really work a little bit better. Just did not like it at all. Sprays everywhere, feels terrible, hard to get spin. 340 swing weight strung stock, hard to use, inaccessible. Who am I supposed to recommend an insanely powerful, insanely launchy, yet unmaneuverable racket to? Not very comfortable either. Like, what's the target audience? Although the Mutet endorsement is baller as hell. Okay, Boom MP. S-tier endorsement with Coco Gauff. Love that they got this all blue colorway on this thing. I really enjoyed using this racket. Customization options are huge. Like, I think you can customize this Boom MP to work with a huge range of players. The feel is just connected enough so you know what's going on. It's just comfortable enough that I think it works for so many players. I have half a mind to put this thing in S, but then S is so crowded. It's like, how many good rackets are there? I don't know if I like how this tier list is going. So, yeah, we'll leave it up there. Nova was fine. C. That's it. I'm sure you all agree with